Welcome to This Week in the PNFL. I'm your host, Mark Hill, and along for the ride is Mitch Grawl and Dean Chambers. How are we doing tonight, fellas?
Very fantastic.
All right, so we have finished up, what are we at, Week 8 in the PNFL. We're going to run through those Week 8 games. We're also in the middle segment. We're going to have a discussion about the PCFL. I know that we have the signing of freshmen coming in, and I know that Dean wants to go ahead and run through that. So we're going to go through that whole setup, and then we're going to go into our Week 9 games. And I think that's pretty much going to cover everything that we have going on here, guys. So other than that, I think that's about it. So if you guys are ready to go, we are going to hop right on into this with our first game on the docket. We have Jacksonville hosting the Houston Oilers. And looks like someone woke up because they took it to Jacksonville 17 to 34. They knocked off Jacksonville. We're going to start this one off with Dean.
Yeah, these stats were even close. 397 yards total offense to 268. And the player of the game was a tight end, believe it or not. How often does that happen? Not very often. I'm not sure what's going on with Jacksonville. I mean, some weeks they look pretty good. Other weeks they've looked not as good. But this is pretty solid win for Houston. Houston is 3-5. The season is still a bit challenging for them. I know that because 2 seasons ago I was 3-5. But, much needed win. It's much better to be 3-5 than to be 2-6.
All right. Coach, what was the formula this time?
Well, I was doing my best to mess up everybody's fantasy leagues. You know, I know for those who compete in fantasy league, PNFL football, you never expect backup tight ends to have big games. Well, that's what Tucker Kraft did. He's my backup tight end, and he had a monster game catching a touchdown as well as 61 yards receiving. But what's even cooler, okay, I think Tucker Kraft, he was, I don't know, make a mid-round draft pick or something. I don't even remember. But what makes me feel even better is to know that the mistake draft pick I made a few years ago of Charlie Kohler in the first round as a tight end had a measly 10 yards. So my backup tight end has 61 yards and a touchdown, and my first-round draft pick tight end, which I will never, ever, ever do again in my life, had a measly 10 yards. So, even in my mistakes, we somehow made a way to come about it. But, no, it was a good win. It looked like it was going to be this complete desecration of Jacksonville. They had 3 early turnovers, but then Bakered and started turning the ball over himself and gave Jacksonville a few opportunities to keep it close in the middle of the game. But we were able to kind of pull away there at the end and get that separation. So we'll take it, and now we get Chicago this week. So there we go.
Okay. Next game up, we have our overtime. We have an overtime game between Chicago and Pittsburgh, and even though they came up short, Pittsburgh is for real, but they just came up just a bit shy, losing this one 36-30. Mitch.
Yeah, I tell you what, Pittsburgh still fantastic team. We're not going to, let this loss, get in the way of what we think of Pittsburgh. I still think of them as a very strong team. But I will say that, they're 4-4. And so they've had a little bit of a chink here, a little bit of a lull here recently. But, Chicago, still a tough team, even though they're down a little bit this year. And so it's odd, though, when you see a team that doubles the first downs of their opponent, and yet is still only able to squeak away with a 6-point win in overtime. And so a lot of crazy stuff happened in this game. Just more crazy stuff for Pittsburgh and from that end of it. But Dean, what do you think?
Well, remember, this was the last game that we watched in Discord, and Rich advised us to watch this game. He said it was going to be a really good game. We should watch it. And Chicago jumped out to an early lead. I forget what the score was, but they were winning by 3 or 4 scores. And, people started saying, well, Rich, why do you say this is a good game? What's going to happen here? He said, well, just keep watching. And Pittsburgh started coming back, but it didn't really look like a really strong comeback. It looked like it was a comeback that wasn't going to come back. And somehow, by the end of the game, they had managed to tie the score and go into overtime, and some improbable things happened in the fourth quarter that led to that improbable tie game. And Chicago won that in the overtime. But it's, I don't know, it was a strange game all around. I mean, strange that Chicago is a good team, but you wouldn't expect them to dominate that much early on, and then you wouldn't expect them to let Pittsburgh back into the game in the fourth quarter. I mean, it almost in a way looked like that Georgia at Alabama game in real life when so far ahead of Georgia, and then they let Georgia come back into the game in the second half. It's just, I don't know, just kind of bizarre game, but
yeah.
Well,
that is true. That is true. It looked like it was going to be a, kind of like the Jacksonville, the Houston game. It was like, wow, this is going to be a slaughter, and next thing you know, it's kind of like, it's getting a little closer than we expected.
Okay. Next, we have New England hosting Vegas, and Coach Mox has woken up as they took this one 28-24. Dean.
Well, the crazy thing, we were watching this game in Discord also, and Las Vegas was ahead by, I guess it would have been 3 points. I guess it's 24-21. And New England had 10 seconds left in the clock, and Rich was surprised by this too. He said, watch what they're going to do here. New England called a toss sweep play with 10 seconds left in the game. Amazingly. Why would you call a running play with 10 seconds left in the game when you need a score to win? And then the next play, they called a pass razzle-dazzle play and scored I think it was a 50 or 60-something yard touchdown pass to win the game. Again, a very improbable result. Clearly, either of these teams could have won this game, and it was kind of like my game last season against Green Bay when, I keep saying Shuggy, refer to that. Your 1 second play that won the game, it was literally the last second of that game. His team called one of the DB or NY pass razzle-dazzle plays and completed a 70-something yard touchdown pass to win the game. So, these things can still sometimes happen.
Okay. Mitch.
Yeah, well, never, and you all know I always say this when I'm talking about New England, never underestimate the genius of Mox. When everybody thinks he's going to zig, he zoinks. And that's exactly what happened here. He lulled Las Vegas to sleep, running that ball to get in the perfect position to fire that deep pass to get that game-winning score. Hats off to Mox. Made the rain clouds form over New England and condense all over Foxborough this week. But, like I said, never underestimate the genius of Mox. That's 4 wins in a row now for New England. He is just beating up, the murderer's row of his schedule. He's knocked off the Giants, the Falcons, the Raiders. I think all are combined 2-47. But he did somehow beat Indianapolis, so he split that season series with them. But hats off to Mox and getting his team back in contention.
There's a lesson here, Mitch, and you know what that is?
What's
The
that?
spaghetti tossers of the league can still win games.
Yes. The tossers still can win. The tossers still can win.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just have to go with the spaghetti.
There
Yes,
you
You
go.
can choose the marinara, you can choose the Alfredo sauce, but you got to go with the spaghetti.
Yes.
All right. Los Angeles hosting Denver. Another close game determined by one score as LA took this one 24-17. Mitch.
Yeah. I tell you what, this is becoming interesting this year. Denver did get off to that really hot start, and then they've cooled down. And LA, a little bit of a slow start. Now they've heated up, won 4 in a row, starting to look like the Chargers of a few years ago with that young stud quarterback who got the injections, the growth hormone and the steroid injections after the draft, so he's looking like a beast right now. But as far as the game goes, LA, I think did a nice job of kind of keeping things moving, and we'll see if they can kind of keep things going. However, it definitely is going to get tougher for them in the coming weeks. And then Denver, they'll find a way to get themselves the ship righted. Though I think they have lost like 3 of their last 4 or something along those lines. But I'm sure they'll get themselves back on track.
Yeah. Dean.
Yeah, LA is 5-3, and they're peaking at the right time. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them not only make the playoffs but make a run. And that rookie quarterback you talked about was player of the game, and he completed 22 20 passes at 281 yards. He did throw an interception, but he had 2 touchdown passes. He performed just as well as the veteran quarterback on Denver. So, this is a pretty solid win for them. I don't know if LA is going to win the division and be a wild card, but I think they will be in the tournament this year. And, I wouldn't even be surprised to see them make it back to the Super Bowl. Although if they do make it to the Super Bowl again, they'll find when they get there, a different NFC team will be playing against them, and I'm not sure what team that would be. It could be. I think it's very possible Minnesota could repeat again, but we'll see. I think they have a chance of being there, though.
All right. Indianapolis hosting the Washington Redskins. This one here did not go Indy's way as Washington took this one 25-7. Dean.
Well, Washington is another team that wants to be there, and they have ambitions to be there, and they could. They played very well in this game. They played solid defense, only giving a touchdown to Indianapolis. They played good offense, scored 25 points. That we had Jerry on the show, and he always aims to score more than 25 and give up fewer than 20. And, as Mitch pointed out, it was on Discord last week here in the show, the team that scores a little more points, wins like, 13 out of 13 times. So, I'm not sure what happened with the Colts. Did they even really show up? 176 yards of total offense. They were just ineffective. They didn't move the ball. Pickett was 11-25 through two interceptions. Their running game was pathetic. 41 yards rushing for the entire game. They didn't play very well in defense either. I mean, did they even get off the bus for this game? I don't know. I mean, were these like imposters wearing the uniforms that showed up and played the game because they didn't look good, very good at all.
Mitch.
Well, I think our question for the listening audience, well, I'll ask you two here since you can respond, but for the listening audience, do you all know if Kenny Pickett, is he from Puerto Rico or any by chance? Do you all know? Because I tell you what, he played like hot garbage Oh my
Here we
gosh!
go. Here
Talk
we go.
about a pile of hot garbage. That's what Kenny Pickett and the Indianapolis offense looked like. Oh my gosh, that was awful.
Here we go. Who's
But
buying a ticket for this
but
train?
but here's the good news. We're only halfway through the season. Indianapolis has shown that they can compete most weeks against anybody. So I'm sure that they'll get a refund on their vacation to Puerto Rico. But that was tough. That was tough. I know Tim was on our Discord, and I think after a while he was just like, okay, let's just fast forward this thing. But anyway, that's all I got on this one, Mark.
All right. Next game up, we have the New York Jets taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. And as much as I hate to say it, and I'm going to hear his mouth because I'm going to talk some mess from one of his comments later on in the show. Coach Bloomer is making some people, getting some room set up on his hype train as Philadelphia took down the Jets 38-26. Very... Okay, had a gag reflex there on that one. Just very dominant performance. Just, I think I'm going to be sick. Mitch, go. Go, Mitch.
You may go, I tell you, well, here, I'll make you feel a little bit better, is that, the Philadelphia, they end up scoring more points than the Jets, which, as Dean alluded to, teams that outscore their opponent are 1,375 and 0. In the career here of the PNFL. Yep. But oddly enough, the Jets, as bad as they played, particularly for a Jets team, not as bad as an Indianapolis team, but as bad as the Jets were, they were still in this game all the way pretty much to the end. It ended up being a 2-score game, but congratulations to Philly for, I think, getting like their first win ever. I believe it seemed like it, the way James was shooting fireworks off and things on the Discord. But this isn't the normal Jets team, so might want to make sure we're still in that laboratory working. So that's my input there.
Right. Dean.
I may have the worst record of the three of us in picking winners, but I absolutely have to condense on both of you here because I was the only one who called this game and said that the Jets were going to lose to the Eagles. And that's what happened. You both, Mark, you said, well, the Jets are going to do what the Jets are going to do. Well, the Jets didn't do what the Jets are going to do. And Mitch, you went along with it. You said, yeah, I'm picking the Jets. Yeah. The Jets did not win this game. Number two, the way the Jets played in this game, I mean, look at those numbers for Mac Jones, 13 of 35. I mean, Kenny Pickett has nothing on him. I mean, you want to find, given, the garbage comment over the weekend was made in New York City. Well, I think we found the floating island of garbage he was talking about, and it's the New York Jets offense in this game because they were terrible.
Well, who they needed, they needed Kyle Allen. If he was quarterback on either of these teams, they'd have won this game this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But, someone.
Well, hey, and speaking of hot garbage in New York, let's go to that Atlanta Giants game, Mark.
Yeah, next one up, we have the New York Giants taking on the Atlanta Falcons. And, Dean showed up and showed out, taking this one 34-30. Mitch.
Yeah, congratulations, Dean. Hendon, played like a dirty hooker and, won player of the game. So congratulations there. But even Drake May, came in and did well in Hendon's absence. Back and forth game, but I think Atlanta finally got a stop a few times. And, obviously made the difference, 34-30. And I'm sure there were parties in the streets of Atlanta after this game.
All right, Dean.
Well, I told you all when we watched this game that these teams don't play any defense, and they didn't. It's 64 points total scored, and I don't know what I don't know what the Giants were. Well, like I said, neither team were really playing much defense, and my offense could have converted the production and yardage a little more effectively to points, because 498 yards of total offense only scored 34 points, but the Giants only 310 and scored 30 off of that. So overall, I don't think it was a very well played game by either team. You know, someone had to win. I mean, some of you said this game was the Soccer Bowl. It's not. We're going to actually have the Soccer Bowl later on in the season, but you know, these teams are certainly not diminish your confidence in their ability to get a berth in the Soccer Bowl. Put it that way.
Well, I guess maybe if this isn't the Soccer Bowl, it's kind of like the Chick-fil-A kickoff version of the Soccer Bowl. You know, earlier early in the season. So we'll see what the big Soccer Bowl looks like in the season.
All right. Next up, out of the three of us, one team had of course, couldn't go for the trifecta. Someone took a loss, and that was Seattle hosting San Francisco. You know, the passing stats was minimal for both teams, but mistakes by Seattle and missed opportunities did them in, as San Francisco took this game 24-9. Dean.
Yeah, this is a pretty tough game for the Seahawks. Wilson was 16 of 42 and 38% of completions. I mean, that looks like something that, you know, Justin Fields or Trey Lance could do on my team. No touchdown passes, 0 interceptions. Purdy, at least for San Francisco, had 2 touchdown passes and didn't throw any interceptions. So the 49ers played some pretty good defense, and they played adequate offense. That was it. And then the Niners are still in contention for a playoff spot. So, you know, this keeps them on top of that.
All right. Mitch.
Well, if Indianapolis is Puerto Rico, I'm going to say to Seattle, you're Guam. You know, another territory of the United States that is just kind of floating out there in the middle of the ocean. But yeah, tough outing there for old Zach Wilson. He has won player of the game a few times in his life, so the ability is there. The ability is there. We just got to hone in that consistency. Maybe now that the Seattle coaching staff is fully focused on the professional game versus dabbling in that college game for a few weeks, maybe we'll start to see Zach Wilson come back around.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. We still plenty of work to do. We'll see. Definitely. All right. Last game up for the week. We have Minnesota hosting Shuggy in Green Bay. And if you thought the previous game looked bad, Minnesota ended up taking this one 27-3. Mitch.
You know, we talked about Puerto Rico. We talked about Seattle looking like Guam. And then we come to Green Bay and they say, hey, guys, hold my beer. Let me show you what bad play looks like out there. Actually, you know, they, I don't know, defensively they actually held Minnesota pretty solid. Just they could not do anything to help that that defense on the offensive side. Didn't sustain any drives. 1 of 14 on third down. One is you have 14 third down attempts. You know, that shows you're not getting a whole lot on first and second down, but then you only get the one of those 14 third down. It means it's third and long like the entire time. So, you know, it feels like Shuggy is getting close to making that next step to being average. but not quite this week. Not quite this week. Minnesota rolled. What do you think, Dean?
Yeah, the Green Bay offense didn't show up. I said Green Bay would do some things. They didn't really do any things. I mean, I'm not even sure. You said they didn't have a drive at all. Was that field goal kicked on a turnover by Minnesota? I don't remember. But, yeah, I mean, you can't drive on a single third down conversion like you put it at 1 out of 14. The offense was just not very effective. You know, Haskins was 44% completions, 76 yards of rushing at 4.8 per carry is not bad, but they didn't do enough of it. The passing game was not very effective, 137 yards total. And I don't know what the average gain per pass was 2.1 yards. That just doesn't get it done. That just doesn't get it done. This offense was barely shut up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So we've run through our week's games. We're going to pivot to our middle segment. And Mitch mentioned it earlier or alluded to it a little bit earlier. The PCFL. We're going to hand this over to Mitch as we are coming up on Friday is the signing of the rookies coming or the freshmen coming in to the respective schools. And I'm going to have Dean go ahead and go through a full step-by-step what to look for and how this process is going to work out. So, Dean, you are up. What's going on in the PCFL?
Yeah, the recruiting starts Friday midnight Eastern time. Now, the full details are described under the recruiting rules, but to give a basic rundown of it, we're recruiting the 5-star players only, and in the spreadsheet with the players that I sent out, the 5 stars are either in the dark green on the right or on the left side. There's a number corresponding to how many stars there are, the ones that are 5, of course. Those are the only ones that are available to be recruited starting Monday night. So the first week we're going to recruit 5-star players. So
wait a minute. You said Monday night or Friday?
Right. No, Friday night.
Friday at midnight going into Saturday.
It's when it opens, yeah. And we'll do recruiting the first week will be 5-star players, but it'll open Friday at midnight. And basically, the process will be similar to signing free agents in the PNFL. So, for example, let's say you want to recruit one of the 5-star wide receivers on your team. You'll post a bid. You'll post his name in the subject line, and in the body of the message, you'll put 1 point, 3 points, whatever you open the bid at. 1 point is the minimum bid, and after that, teams can bid up a 0.5 point. The only limit on how many players a team can bid is your limit of points. You can't spend more than the points you have. In other words, every team has 100 points. You can't post bids on 6 different 5-star players, 20 points each. You'll be over your points. And the other thing, keep in mind, and this is in the rules, starting week 3, it'd be very limited, and I don't expect a lot of it to happen, but it's an option. It's kind of a thing that will should affect the way that you go into recruiting and do your recruiting board. And that is, there'll be an ability, each team will be able to attempt to do this on one player, to flip a player that's signed with a team. 4 and 5-star players, but it would probably be 5-star players that people would do that on. And that would be almost like bidding on tagged players in the PNFL. It would be open for the 24 hours to start week 3. And the point of that is, and that's described in detail in the recruiting rules. So the reason why I bring that up is keep that in mind, that if you max out and spend all of your points, or just about all of them, on 4 and 5-star recruits and sign a good recruiting class, you're going to be targeted by teams who try to poach your recruiting class by flipping one of your players, and then you don't have points to match. That's kind of like putting good players on the practice squad in PNFL, and you're sitting there with 3 points left, and someone bids 4 points on one of your practice squad players. You lose that player because you can't match the bid, or you're making a frantic trade during those 24 hours to get points, which I traded points to a team who was in that situation recently and in order to have the points to match the bid. Here, of course, we don't have trading of points because we don't have trading. It's not a, it's a college league. There's no trading in a college league. So even more so in this case, a team that would spend all their points and then have someone post a flip bid week 3 on one of their players to flip one of their players, then you can't match those points. So it's another kind of built-in correction to the system that we put in place so that to kind of disincentivize overspending on your points and disincentivize overbidding on players. And, we're going to have competitive bidding wars over the good players, and I think that would be because there is real solid talent that's in the recruiting class that people will go after. And some of those 4 and 5-star players are more ready to play now and need less training camp than some of the, maybe some of the 3-star players that are 30 or 40 something points away from max will never max out. So that will make a difference. But because we've seen sometimes in PNFL free agency where even like a good offensive lineman, people are bidding 15 and 20 points for one player because there isn't a whole lot of good talent in there. And there's a lot of, there were a lot of teams that had points to spend. So in this case, all the human coach teams have 100 points to spend equally, but there's some really good talent to spread those points out over. So that and the fact that players could flip after week 3, if each team can only post one flip bid and only one bid on one player. So you can't try to flip 3 players from, one each from 3 different teams. Each team can only target one player to flip. And if someone else bids against that player, that's their flip bid. They can't bid against the player you're trying to flip and then go bid on another one. It's just one per team, and that's it. And ultimately, if they win that flip bid, they're going to have to spend those points to sign that player. So if anyone has a notion of doing that, they would have to save those points in order to do that, let alone teams that recruit well will want to save some of their points in case they have to match bids. So that's something to keep in mind. But for this Friday, it starts at midnight. And again, you go to the forum under recruiting and you just post like you would bid on a free agent in the PNFL. And it's 5-star recruits only. The second week, a week from this Friday at midnight, we will open up recruiting of 4-star players, and then any 5-star players that aren't signed or still subject to bidding wars, those will continue. But it's very possible in a week that all the 5-star players will be signed. And the way they get signed is bids will get posted, and let's say you bid 5 points for that wide receiver, and Mitch or someone else, I or Steve likes that player, bids a half point higher. Well, just like in PNFL free agency, when the last bid stands for 24 hours, then it closes and that player signs with that team for that number of points. And those points are deducted from that team's balance. All those other points can then be, the other teams that bid those points, they can use those points to bid on other players. But when you post a bid, your points are temporarily tied up in that bid unless you withdraw a bid. So you can't overbid, your points. If that makes sense. Just like you can't do that in the PNFL. Rich will send you a note saying you can't afford to sign all these players you bid on. You're going to have to, withdraw some of those bids.
Right. So you got to budget it out. And I would definitely say for the guys to take a look at their spreadsheet, go over the rules that's on the forum. And definitely, if you have any questions, reach out to Dean to help him so he can help clarify it for you guys. So,
and be thinking of your strategy as far as what positions you need to emphasize, you need to place more importance on. I mean, did you graduate a really good running back, a quarterback, and is that your highest priority? Then that's probably what you should be. You think about recruiting and dedicating a lot of points to it. I mean, if, like for example, I would imagine Arkansas will probably bid on a 5-star halfback. That'd probably be its most important priority to replace the guy who won the Heisman Trophy and graduated.
Right.
So, they may be expected to spend a lot of points drafting the best halfback that's in this draft. And that would make sense. So, decide how many players, how many positions you realistically can expect to get. And in case one of your better players gets targeted for a flip bid, then having some points to match that.
Okay.
So those are all things to keep in mind. I think it would be a pretty exciting, kind of fun process. More interesting and more realistic to college football than if we just simply did a draft. Now the CPU teams will just have their players regenerated very similar to the players that graduated, but put on their rosters as freshmen. So the recruiting process, because there's really no way to have someone else we can all volunteer to do CPU training camps, because you can do a training camp and do it well without there being any conflict of interest against your own team. But if you're recruiting for your own team and then you're recruiting for a CPU team as well, you're inherently not, recruiting in the best interest of the other team when you're recruiting for your own team. So it doesn't make sense. So the CPU teams are just going to be reconstituted by replacing the seniors that graduated with very similarly rated freshman players. And that will kind of keep those rosters at similar strength as they were until a human coach takes over and starts actively recruiting for them in the future. And that's what we'll do going forward with CPU teams, just to make sure the CPU teams are properly restocked and have at least 53 players on roster. And then they will benefit from the ability to get 5-star players and to move up in that way when those teams gain a human coach. But in the meantime, we're just reconstituting and keeping the CPU teams at a consistent level of talent by doing it that way. So that's what we're going to do. And that will keep the CPU teams in the game and competitive, but the human coach teams will have an advantage of being able to actively recruit. And those other teams will get that when we find coaches to coach those teams.
All right. Again, guys, a lot of information there. Check out the spreadsheet. Definitely check out the form on the PCFL. And also, if you know anyone that wants to join the league, have them reach out to Dean and take one of those open coaching or one of those open teams out there, and come in and join the league and keep this thing going. We had a real good season. Let's try to make it even better for season number 2. So, all right.
Hey guys, one thing that might be worth a mention here tonight is the big discussion on the PNFL forum about the change or potential change to the running profile to allow more running categories to be used throughout the different scenarios. Dean, I know you've been commenting a lot online about that. Anything you want to share about that topic?
Well, that came up in Discord last week, and I think Rich discussed it with Charlie, and Charlie kind of opened the discussion. Basically, the idea of what seems to be on the table is that maybe we allow offenses to use 2 running categories on first down rather than just one. So it would give the option of the offense to do like run left, run middle, or run right and run middle, and then one of the passing categories, instead of just being locked into only being able to do pass short left, pass medium left, and run middle in the first category. So that's on first and 10. So that's really, a lot of other kind of side issues have been entered into the discussion that kind of distracted it. But if you go back and look at the first post that Charlie made to open that discussion, he said it was regarding the ability to use more different styles of running plays at different times, including first and 10, but it was regarding running plays. It wasn't about allowing pass long right to be called on first down, as someone raised the issue. It wasn't about allowing someone to call 3 different categories of medium passes on first, all these other things. Well, if we allow this, why don't we allow? No. The discussion didn't arise out of any of that. No one, in the Discord discussion we had Friday night, no one was suggesting that, we should be able to call all 3 different versions of pass medium on second and 10. No one suggested that. that wasn't where this discussion came from. If someone wants to propose that as a separate issue and a separate discussion, they can do that. But that's not what this was about. This was about allowing all three categories of rushing to be used and allowing a team theoretically to run more, because, James was saying that he thought his profile was set 10-1-1 or 10-2-1, meaning 10 run middle, 1 or 2 pass short, and 1 pass medium. But yet his team was passing way more than it should have been. And I've seen this. I created profiles that are 10-1-1, which should be run middle, like 83% of the time on first and 10. And yet at the end of the game, I've called as many, if not more, passing plays than running plays. So I think the idea here was, if you want to run a running heavy ball control offense, you should be able to run more than just 10 out of 12 in first down, and run more than just run middle. And the other thing that Barney brought up is, by having the three categories all be able to be used, you can isolate to, like, running off tackle and run left, running sweeps and run right, and running inside runs and run middle. If you choose to do it that way, that give you some coaching and control. So those are some of the issues that were highlighted in that discussion. It's all on the forum for those who want to go and read all the messages and input and point of view on that.
Yeah, I guess my take on it, or my thoughts on it. I guess I'm kind of I'm like Switzerland. I'm kind of neutral on it. I'm fine either way. I agree with Jerry. It seems like, maybe we need to make sure that we're making change for the right reasons and all those stuff, which we've all talked about that. But I also, I do like the thought of, well, if I wanted to, on first down, make sure all of my run plays go to the left, so that on second down I can make sure they all go to the right, because I can use these different categories. That's, kind of cool too. I really don't know how much of an impact that would make on the final stats and all, but I guess it would be kind of cool to have that option. That being said, it's I think some of the things you mentioned, Dean, about, the teams wanting to have a heavy run. If you got run middle at a 10 and pass short left, pass medium left at ones, there is that opportunity that pass is going to be called for sure. But 83% of the time, right, it would be a run, and I think most cases, other than maybe under 5 minutes, you would probably, in real life, would have at least some sort of pass category. And I think if it's less than 5 minutes, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was under 5 minutes, you can have pretty much anything you want to on the profile. So if you wanted to have all three running categories under 5 minutes to make sure you run the ball every time, I think you could do that right now, right?
Right, but when there's more than 5 minutes left, in theory it's 83%. But I watched it myself and then watch the game and see that at least 40 to 45% of first downs like passing, and that's only 2 out of 12. So the team is biased in favor of passing no matter what.
Yeah. And I know that it can, from game to game, it'll sometimes be a little screwball. I know with even in the game, I'll notice how, man, why in the world is it calling passes every other time on 2nd and 10 when I wanted it to be a run? And then all of a sudden in the second half, it does nothing but run the ball, so it kind of equals it out as the game goes on. But like I said, I don't necessarily have a passion one way or the other, so whatever Charlie wants to do is, I can adjust either way, but it is an interesting conversation, and one that I don't think is a complete, hey, we're going to blow up the league, but I think the key is that you can't just leave the run lefts and the run rights at just 4 plays. You've got to increase those as being proposed at least to 6. Because it's just too easy. Well, it's just you got to move that up. So anyway, that's all I got on that, Mark.
Yeah, one of the ideas was to go 6 each because it's a total of 2 running plays. Where right now it's 10 run middle, 4 run left, and 4 run right, it's still 18. So even if you do 6, 6, 6, 6 of each, it's still 18 running plays total. So it isn't, that someone must say, well, we wouldn't want to have the situation where someone can do like just 4 plays most of the game. Well, it doesn't allow that if you have 6 of each category.
Well, and I think Justin had brought up that, well, hey, if you do this, it means you're going to have a higher percentage of quarterback runs, or getting into the mix if you leave it at that 50% rule and all that. And I guess my thought is right now, I agree it would, but heck, even right now, if we changed nothing, right? If we did no changes at all, I mean, the only down that basically you don't have at least a 50% chance of a run for a quarterback being called is 1st and 10. Because on 2nd and 6 to 10, you can do run rights, have 4 plays, 2 of them quarterback runs, and, there you go. On 2nd and 2 to 1, 0 to 5, you can do run lefts, and just 4 of them, you can have quarterback run. So the only down and 3rd down, we all know you can do whatever you want. So the only down that, even if we change nothing, that you don't have the opportunity to do quarterback runs more than 50% is 1st and 10. So.
Yeah, because under the current rules, if you wanted to make a profile and game plan that would run your quarterback as much as possible, you would max out how many run left and run right you call in all the situations where they're allowed, and put 2 or 4, because you're allowed to put 2 quarterback runs in each of those out of only 4. I mean, you could theoretically create a game plan and profile where literally half of your running game is quarterback runs. That's way too high, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, well, especially with the endurance restriction we have. I mean, your quarterback would be dead by the 3rd quarter.
Yeah, probably literally dead, carried on in a stretch with a career-ending injury.
Yeah, and I've seen some of those backup quarterbacks out there. I don't know if we want too many of them having to play full time.
Well,
no, we don't want them in there. No.
They're 98% of the starters. It shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
They're all trained.
Yeah. Well, no, the backups are about 97.5. So that 0.5 difference, Dean, as Jerry will tell you, makes a huge difference. Huge difference.
Yeah.
This gross.
All right.
Garbage. The hot garbage. Puerto Rico.
Oh my goodness. All right, we're gonna put a pin in that because we are behind schedule here. A lot of information, we're a little bit behind. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and if you guys want to take this up further, we just take it up on the forum and get some chatter going out there as well. We're gonna pivot over to our Week 9 games. We're gonna go ahead and try to run through these pretty quick so we can kind of stay on time. We have one pick'em game. We have a couple games over a 10-point spread. Everything else is within the normal window. So we're going to go ahead and get this thing kicked off with game number 1. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the New York Jets. They are giving the Jets 13.5. Mitch.
Ooh, man, oh man. I don't know. After the Jets losing to Philadelphia last week, I mean, can we really count on the Jets to win another game this year, y'all? I mean, should we? I mean, I don't know. I mean, especially against a team like Jacksonville. But I think I'm going to stick with the Jets this week. I'm just going to go with the Jets.
All right. Dean.
Yeah, I think the Jets will do what they normally do against Jacksonville and win this game. I think Jackson will make an effort and will show up and will play tough. But unless they prove me wrong, I think Jets will win this game.
All right. I'll keep mine real short and simple. I'm going with the Jets. Next game up, we have the L.A. Chargers hosting the New England Patriots, and they are giving the Chargers 7.5. Dean.
Well, I would say this is the game you want to put all your chips on. You want to take out the second mortgage and max out your credit cards or whatever you have to do to make some money in a bet. The Chargers are going to win this game, definitely, and they're going to cover the spread. So this is my lead pipe lock of the week. The Chargers will win and cover the spread over New England.
All right. Mitch.
Oh, Dean, didn't we just have this conversation about an hour ago? Never underestimate the genius of Mox. He is won 4 in a row, taking on a monster schedule, and he is going to unleash havoc on that rookie quarterback. I'm going to put the lead pipe in, and I'm going to put it on New England this week.
All right, I'll keep mine simple. I'm on the Mox train this week. I'm going for the Patriots this week for the upset. Next game, we have the Atlanta Falcons taking on the Indianapolis Colts. They are do what now?
Just like you were both betting on the Jets last week.
Yep.
Now you're betting on New England, and well,
Yep, pretty much.
different matchup, same result.
Yes, we are.
All right, we got the Atlanta Falcons taking on the Indianapolis Colts. They are giving the Colts 7.5. Mitch.
Well, one of the best things to do if you're a little bit of a losing streak or a little bit of a slump is to go play Atlanta. So I'm going to take the Colts this week.
Ouch. Dean.
Dean is like, you son of a gun.
Yeah, Dean, what's up?
Okay, I'll leave that garbage on the table.
What do you got, Dean?
The Chargers are 5-3, and they should have really won that game against the Jets. If they had, they would be 6-2 and tied with the Jets. You could make an argument that the Colts are the best team right now in the AFC East. If you look at their roster, I was looking at the roster. They're better than Atlanta at every single position. They're better quarterback, better running backs, better receivers, offensive line, defensive line, linebackers, defensive backs. They're better at every single position. I mean, this is a really well-built, solid team, and it's no surprise that they should be in contention with playoffs and maybe even still challenge the AFC, challenge the Jets in the AFC East. And, in the words of one of our participants here on this podcast, I will just say it's an honor to take the field with this great, awesome team.
Okay. Shit. I'm going with the Colts this week.
Was it really that tough of a decision, Mark?
Yeah, because Dean has that tendency of those games that you just know he's going to lose. He'll find some kind of way to pull out a win. So, yeah.
Well, he is 1-7, Mark says. It's only happened once this season.
Yeah, that's true. Next up, we have the Las Vegas Raiders taking on the Denver Broncos. They're giving the Broncos 8.5. Dean.
Yeah, this is simple. Even though it is at Las Vegas, Denver rebounds from last week's game and wins.
All right, Mitch.
Yeah, Denver's going to take this one. Las Vegas is sputtering.
All right, I concur. Go with the Broncos. Next one up, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Minnesota Vikings. They're giving the Vikings 3.5. Mitch.
This here is probably game of the week, or I would expect it to be. I think this is going to be a tough-fought game. I could see it easily, going late to the fourth quarter, maybe even going to overtime. I'm going to go with the Vikings because I always go with the Vikings. Plus, I need Pittsburgh to lose so I can get back in the hunt. But I'm going to go with the Vikings.
All right, Dean.
Yeah, I think that 3.5-point spread is out of respect for the Steelers or perceived respect for the Steelers, and that's why that spread isn't any higher. But I think the Vikings are going to do what the Vikings do, and they're going to win this game and cover the spread.
Not so fast. I'm calling for the Steelers for the upset. And I'm so confident for that. That's going to be my lead pipe lock for the week for the Steelers. Next game up, we have the Houston Oilers hosting the Chicago Cardinals. They are giving the Cardinals 4.5. Dean.
Well, I think the death of the Cardinals playoff run has been prematurely predicted on Discord, and I think the Cardinals are going to, starting this week going forward, I think they have something to prove here and are going to prove that they're not down and out, and I think Chicago wins in conference.
Mitch.
If this was the Bears, I would be a little frightened. But this is the Cardinals, and I think the Oilers are going to spew all over the Cardinals, get those feathers all nice and oiled up, and we're going to take this thing and bring home the victory.
Okay, P. Diddy.
You're going to oil up those Cardinals.
Cardinals. The way you talked, it was like you was at a P. Diddy baby oil party. Cardinals. Moving on. Next game, we have the Washington Redskins hosting the San Francisco 49ers. They're giving the Redskins 7.5. Mitch. Baby oil Mitch.
I know, man. Gonna get them ready. I'm going to go with the 49ers here. I feel confident. I'm going to go with the 49ers this week.
All right. Dean.
Yeah, what has happened this show? We've been talking about garbage to P. Diddy. But in this game, I kind of agree with Mitch. I'm feeling like an upset is in the making here. I think the 49ers will shock the Redskins at home.
All right. I'm going for the Redskins. I think the Redskins are going to put up with the spread and everything, I think the Redskins are going to take this one. Coming down to our last two games, we have our pick'em game of the week. We have the New York Giants taking on the Seattle Seahawks. Dean.
Yeah, given last week's game and this season so far, the Giants just don't look very good. And, say what you will about the Seahawks, but I think the road team will pull off the upset. It's a pick'em game, so it could go either way, but I think Seattle wins this game on the road.
All right, Mitch.
Well, I know I can't really predict a tie. I guess I could, but you know what? Screw it. I think Zach Wilson is going to get back on track, and I'm going to take Seattle.
Go Hawks. Last game up. We have, for Week 9, we have the Philadelphia Eagles taking on Shuggy and the Green Bay Packers. They're giving the Eagles 10.5. Mitch.
Well, as I was sitting here thinking about this game, who should I go with, Pack or the Eagles here? I mean, one thing just keeps kind of popping in my head, and that's, that never underestimate Shuggy's ability to F things up. And so I'm going to take Philadelphia.
All right. Dean.
You're comparing Shuggy to Joe Biden. Wow. That was Barack Obama's comment about Joe Biden. Maybe.
I know it was.
Wow.
I'm watching the news as we're doing this, so all this crap is just flowing through my head right now. But anyway, yes.
You're back in rare form with your condensation. There's no doubt about it.
So who's going to win that game, Dean?
I think the home team is going to win this game. I think the momentum here and the effectiveness of the Eagles' offense, which I think will be better this week. And I think it'll be Philadelphia that is actually going to do some things in this game and beat Green Bay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think James is going to find a way to do it.
I think so, huh?
Yep.
All right, I'm going, as much as I hate to say it, gag reflex, Philly. Ugh. Shuggy, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, Shuggy. All right, sorry we went over the time a little bit, but we had a lot we had to get out today. So As we make our last trip around the table, we're going to start off with Dean. Any final words?
Yeah, just a reminder, join us all again on, I assume it will be 10 Eastern time, but, Mitch will let us know. Watch the games. Have our usual Friday night fun fest of watching Friday night nights and watching the games live on Discord. So join us.
All right. Mitch, any final words before you take us home?
Yeah, plan on sharing or streaming on Discord Friday. I would say time to be determined. It will not be earlier than 10, but they might have a slight later start. But I will let you all know. But regardless, we will definitely be streaming some games, having some laughs, and probably making fun of Shuggy quite a bit. So come join us. And with that, Mark, I think the only thing left to do now is let's get it.